Family group records at the BYU Family History Library can be of great value to the genealogist. This is a chart showing the family group records at the BYU Family History Library. BYU is a major repository for LDS family group records. The collections are scattered in some different areas of the Family History Library. This chart is our attempt to help patrons locate LDS family group records at the BYU Family History Library. Much of the information about the records was taken from the Family Search Wiki. You will notice this chart has a timeline. This will help you envision the time sequence of the various records. To give perspective, you can see that the Temple Index Bureau Endowment Index 1842 to 1969 existed until the computer age, the vertical yellow line. That was followed by the Computer File Index, which was later renamed the International Genealogical Index, or IGI. Today, our emphasis will center on the different types of family group records. You have a handout of the chart. Attached to the chart are the documents that will detail how to search and how to locate each collection in the BYU Family History Library. The first group of records is the main archives section, 1942 to 1969. These are family group records that were submitted prior to having proxy ordinances performed. When the ordinances were completed and the dates stamped on the forms, they were filed in the archives section. Some sheets were removed by patrons before microfilming was completed. This collection is also online at familysearch.org as images that can be browsed. They are not every named indexed. Online, you are required to sign in as an LDS church member to view the records. These are useful to patrons if they want to locate completed ordinances for their ancestors. The next group of records is the Patrons section. It consists of two collections of family group records submitted to the Utah Genealogical Society for the purposes of sharing genealogical information and identifying others working on the same lines. The first Patrons section has family group records that were submitted between 1924 and 1950. The microfilm is of poor quality with some surnames missing or incomplete. The second Patrons section was created in 1962 when the first Patrons section was re-microfilmed. These microfilms contain most of the records from the 1950 filming, with the records of the 1950 to 1962 added. Because these records are so old, they can be a valuable source for the patron. The records were submitted 90 years ago, with most recent submissions being 52 years ago. Most of the submitters of the family group sheets are no longer alive. They may contain first-hand information about the submitters or their relatives that are no longer available. The next collection is the LDS Church Census Records, 1914 to 1960. The church took these census records to track members and church growth throughout the world. The first census was taken in 1914. Beginning in 1920, the church took a census every 5 years until 1960, except in 1945. These census records contain information about each family in a ward or branch. The information collected lists each individual in the household, including their gender, age, priesthood office, and marital status. Each time the census was taken, additional bits of information were added, such as an individual's date and place of birth. Most of the time, the multiple census years of an individual family are grouped together in one microfilm. Note, some church units did not participate, or the census taker, the ward clerk, may have missed the family. These records could give a patron a snapshot view of what was going on with the families listed. They may have details that would not be available in other records. They could also validate information. Plus, it is a plus that these censuses were taken every 5 years. The next records are the 3 and 4 generation family group records, 1962 to 1979. This collection resulted from the 3 and 4 generation programs of the church. In 1965, church members were asked to submit a family group record for 3 generations of their family. In 1966, the church extended the request to 4 generations and a pedigree chart. There were so many duplicated records sheets that the church requested that family organizations be created to share and submit one set of sheets. Each year of microfilm is arranged alphabetically by surname. Have the patron check all versions of the family group records for a particular family. Each filming has some names that cannot be found in other filmings. Some records may be sourced and others not sourced. The ancestral file submission sheets are the next family group records. These records are from the original ancestral file submissions prior to them being partially computerized. They are arranged by submission date and sheet number. There are 2 methods that can be used to search these records. Both methods have advantages and disadvantages which are listed in the handout. The ancestral file submission family group sheets can be very useful for patrons because they often include sources and other information that were not included in the computerized ancestral file database. I used my great-grandfather as a search example on the handout. The submission sheets for him included 10 pages of well-documented family group sheets that covered him and allied families. This connects the allied families into a group that would not be available in the online version of Ancestral File. The final collection is the Pedigree Resource File. It is a growing collection of member and public submitted genealogies that are available on FamilySearch.org under Genealogies. They have sources and other valuable information on them. In summary, the different family group records on this chart can be valuable sources of information, especially for our LDS patrons. We encourage you to get to know these records and how to search them. This will enable you to suggest a resource that will be helpful to a patron.